Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Updates at Noon with me. I'm Jessica Lee. Now making the headlines today. Malaysia Madani logo unveiled as official emblem for National Day celebrations. BNM to manage risks of uncertain ringgit movements. The government has selected the Malaysia Madani logo as the official emblem for the upcoming National Day and Malaysia Day 2023 celebrations. Now, in announcing this, Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadzil said Malaysia Madani Tekad Perpaduan Penuhi Harapan has been chosen as the theme for both celebrations this year. The minister said the theme is in line with the government's commitment and determination to develop a nation and a people that are united, living in harmony and enjoying prosperity.
Strategi rakan-rakan media, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang dikasihi.
Harapan saya warga komuniti akan dapat mengambil kesempatan untuk bukan hanya mengibarkan jalur gemilang tapi benar-benar mendalami maksud erti kemerdekaan dan adanya kita dalam Malaysia dan konsep bersatu kita teguh, bercerai kita roboh. Dan saya harap dengan memulakan dengan pengenalan dan pelancaran logo dan tema Hari Kebangsaan dan Hari Malaysia 2023, kita juga akan membuka ruang untuk lebih ramai rakyat Malaysia bercerita tentang betapa bangganya kita tinggal, hidup rukun, aman damai dalam sebuah negara bernama Malaysia.
He said the National Day celebration will kick off on the 15th of July in Ipoh, Perak, and the Malaysia celebration will be held in Kuching, Sarawak on the 16th of September. The National Journalist Day 2023 or Hawana 2023 celebration to recognise the role and contributions of media practitioners in Malaysia raised its curtains in Ipoh today. Theme Media Bebas Tunjang Demokrasi or Free Media, Pillar of Democracy. The celebration until the 29th of May began with the Hawana Media Hunt from Kuala Lumpur to Ipoh, which attracted about 150 participants. The convoy of nearly 40 vehicles was flagged off by Deputy Communications and Digital Minister Tioni Ching from Bernama headquarters at about 8 a.m. They are expected to arrive in Maidin Mall Meru at 3 p.m, where the Hawana Mini Carnival is held. The carnival from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. will be enlivened by activities. The date, 29th of May, was gazetted as National Journalists' Day in conjunction with the publication of the first edition of the Malay newspaper, Utusan Melayu, in 1939. Last year's celebration was held in the historic city of Malacca. More than 18,000 Muslims attended the Majlis Ilmu Madani with the Prime Minister at the Putra Mosque, Putrajaya, last night. Now, the event also featured two prominent Muslim scholars, former Egypt Grand Mufti, Sheikh Professor Dr. Ali Jum'ah Al-Azhari, and Principal of Dar al-Mustafa in Yemen, Habib Umar bin Hafiz. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim in his speech said the program gave the Muslims who were present an opportunity to listen to the wisdom of the two renowned scholars.
Inilah maksud negara Madani. Kembali kepada asas, menjadikan masjid sebagai pengkalan majlis ibadah dan ilmu dan menetapkan semua dasar pendidikan, ekonomi dengan semangat ihsan dan rahmah bagi rakan-rakan yang bukan Islam. Semangat nilai yang dipupuk, akhlak yang ditekankan, Dan ihsan dan rahmah itu akan menjadikan Malaysia ini negara yang berpaut pada Islam.
The ceremony continued with the advice session delivered by Sheikh Dr. Ali Jumaah and Habib Umar. The allocation of seats between Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional during the upcoming state elections, or PRN, will be finalised by the end of May. According to UMNO Supreme Council member Datuk Seri Bung Mukhtar Radin, the discussions on the seat negotiations for the unity government into the 6 state polls were still in progress.
Dia belum mutamat. So far di peringkat negeri diminta berbincang dan belum putus. Will be known end of this month.
Datuk Seri Bung Mukhtar was met after attending an UMNO MT meeting that was chaired by UMNO President Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi at Menara Datuk On, Pusat Dagangan Dunia, Kuala Lumpur last night. On the main agenda of the Supreme Council meeting, Datuk Seri Bung Mukhtar said it was to decide the future of UMNO after the party polls.
Of course kita mau mendengar daripada pemegang-pemegang jawatan tentang perancangan masa depan untuk memperkasakan parti itu ya, dan juga perencanaan untuk berhadapan dengan PRN negeri-negeri akan datang.
Out of the 6 states, the state assemblies of Selangor, Kelantan and Terengganu will automatically dissolve at the end of June, while the state assemblies of Kedah, Negeri Sembilan and Pulau Pinang will dissolve in July and August. Still to come, KKD to monitor online contents on deviant teachings. Now, the ringgit's performance will improve when uncertainties from global market developments subside, reflecting Malaysia's sound economic fundamentals. Now, Bank Negara Malaysia, or BNM, said the movements in the ringgit would continue to be market determined, and BNM would continue to manage the risk. In a statement, BNM explained that the recent depreciation of the ringgit is not limited to Malaysia alone. It said it was important to consider the overall performance of the ringgit in relation to not only the US dollar, but also the currencies of other significant trading partners. BNM said the movement of the ringgit against other major trade partners has been relatively muted. In the current environment, external developments are having a more dominant impact on the ringgit's performance. Now, given this, the ringgit's performance against the US dollar or any particular currency is not a reflection of the state of the economy. Now, Malaysia's economy is expected to continue expanding within the range of 4 to 5% in 2023. Its diverse export markets and product segments will continue to support the resiliency of the external sector. Now, Malaysia has experienced a significant increase in online scam cases over the past 2 years, with the total number of fraud-related complaints rose by 100%. Securities Commission of Malaysia, or SC, revealed it received 548 complaints in the year 2020, and the complaints rose to 1,124 in 2022, with total losses reaching tens of millions of ringgit. SC Executive Chairman Datuk Seri Dr. Awang Adik Hussein said the SC had recorded 267 names on investor alert list and blocked 166 websites and 224 social media accounts suspected of conducting investment fraud last year.
Tahun 20 hingga 22 ni memang peningkatannya begitu ketara sekali. Jadi yang pertamanya mereka tidak seharusnya mudah terpedaya lah dengan janji-janji pelaburan. So the first thing they should do is to check sebenarnya. Patut check dengan SC, check dengan alert list ya. Telefon dapat nasihat sama ada ini genuine ya.
He added the SC would take continuous action to block and eradicate fraudulent activities or scams that are becoming more prevalent in the country. The Communications and Digital Ministry, or KKD, will monitor and block the spread of any video on deviant teachings, including those from neighbouring countries that go viral on social media. Now, its Minister Fahmi Fazil said Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC, will work with the Malaysian Islamic Development Department and state religious councils in identifying and curbing the spread of such materials.
Kita akan pastikan penularan ini bukan hanya dapat disekat, tapi mereka yang terlibat dalam penularan juga boleh diambil tindakan. Jadi itu antara sebab kenapa kita sentiasa beri peringatan untuk elak daripada menyebar satu bahan fitnah, kedua yang melibatkan 3R, apa-apa yang melibatkan isu-isu agama, termasuklah isu ajaran sesat.
Besides the issue of deviant teachings, KKD will also take action against the spread of information linked to scams, frauds, and the use of social platforms to sell restricted items, including drugs. The minister was met after launching Indah Water Consortium Sdn Bhd Eco Park in Pantai Dalam last night. Now, the remains of Malaysian Everest 2023 climber Lieutenant Colonel Awang Askandar Ampuan Yaakob arrived at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport at about 7:30 a.m. today. The body of the Kedah Civil Defence Force Director arrived home on the MH115 flight, which departed from Kathmandu, Nepal at 11:30 p.m. local time yesterday. Awang Askandar's remains was then flown to Kota Kinabalu, Sabah at 11:35 a.m. and is expected to arrive at the Kota Kinabalu airport at 2:15 p.m. Earlier, more than 70 APM personnel paid their last respects to the deceased at the KLIA cargo complex, followed by the Yasin recital and Talil. Also in attendance were the Raja Muda of Kedah, Tengku Sarafuddin Badlisha Sultan Salahuddin, and Cepuan Muda Zahida Muhammad Arif. Yesterday, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Sabah, Sarawak Affairs and Special Functions, Datuk Armizan Muhammad Ali, said Awang Askandar's remains would be taken to his family's house in Kampung Benoni, Papar, and later taken to the As-Salam Benoni Mosque for funeral prayers. His remains will be buried at the Kampung Benoni Muslim Cemetery and accorded full APM honours during the burial. Hopeful Biden to know result of debt limit deal tonight. That and more next in the foreign segment. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden says he is hopeful he will know by tonight if a deal will be reached on the debt limit, as his negotiators and those of House Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy work to find a bipartisan solution to lift the current spending cap.
With regard to the debt limit, things are looking good and very optimistic. I hope we'll have some clear evidence tonight before the clock strikes 12 that we have a deal, but it's very close, and I'm optimistic. The reason I'm going to Camp David is they are working on, the Secret Service is working on my house, bulletproofing the house. So there's no place to go at home, and so I'll be out for 5 weeks.
Biden's comments came after U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said on Friday the government would run short of money to pay its bills on the 5th of June, which would trigger a potentially calamitous default unless Congress raises the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling. Now, Yellen's announcement allows a little more time for Biden and Republican House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy to reach an accord to raise the federal government's self-imposed borrowing limit. Previously, Treasury had said the deal needed to be reached as soon as 1st of June. Now, the world's most populous country inaugurates a new parliament tomorrow, the latest step in Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi's plans to reshape India's capital. But opposition parties are denouncing it as a grave insult to democracy. Modi has long sought to eliminate vestiges of British rule, and the grand new hexagonal legislature stands next to the colonial-era building designed by British architects Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker that it will replace. The new legislature has reportedly cost about $145 million and is part of a grand project aimed at revamping or replacing British-era government facilities in the centre of New Delhi, including a new residence for the Prime Minister. The chamber of the lower house will have 888 seats, significantly more than its current maximum membership of 550, an indication that authorities plan a major expansion in their numbers. Now that could boost Modi's ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. If the seats are increased, according to the most recent census numbers, its heartland in the densely populated north and centre will get much higher representation than India's more developed and affluent south, where the BJP remains relatively weaker. The European Union will send a special human rights envoy to Cuba this year to discuss the aftermath of anti-government protests in July 2021. Now, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell, on a visit to Cuba this week, said EU Special Representative for Human Rights Eamon Gilmore would visit the island in late November to analyse the situation created before, during and after the demonstrations and arrests. Hundreds of Cubans remain in jail after the protests, the largest since former leader Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution. Rights groups, the European Union and the United States have all critiqued Cuba's response to such protests as heavy-handed and repressive. Now, Cuba's government said those jailed were guilty of assault, vandalism and sedition. Borrell said the European Union, Cuba's top trade partner, would stop short of making demands on the government despite disagreements over human rights. The 27-member EU has repeatedly rejected the United States Cold War-era trade embargo, and Washington putting Cuba on the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Now, Cuba's support for Russia in the Ukraine war has become another flashpoint in its relationship with the EU. Cuba, a longtime political ally of Russia, has called for a peaceful solution, but has said the United States, not Russia, is responsible for the war. Satellite imagery released on Friday showed damaged neighborhoods and infrastructure in Didido, Guam, after a typhoon packing ferocious winds and torrential rains battered the island. Now, much of the U.S. Western Pacific Territory was without power and water on Thursday after Typhoon Mawar struck. The typhoon's 241 km/h winds downed power lines and trees, causing widespread power outages on the territory, one of the isolated Mariana Islands, about 6,000 miles west of Los Angeles and 2,500 miles east of the Philippines. None of the 170,000 people who live on Guam were killed or suffered major injuries in the storm. Guam Homeland Security said in a statement that about 980 people were staying at shelters across the island. The Eye of Mawar, one of the most powerful storms in decades to strike the island, tracked just north of Guam early Thursday, moving northwest at a sluggish 8 miles per hour, delivering rainfall of up to 2 inches per hour overnight. Virgin Galactic successfully carried out its first space flight in nearly 2 years on Thursday, the company said, after an enhancement period to make safety upgrades to its fleet. Now, it was the 5th time the space tourism company brushed the boundary of space and has been billed as a final test before commercial operations can begin in late June, with members of the Italian Air Force as the first paying customers. The Unity 25 mission flew 4 of the company's employees to an altitude of just over 87 kilometers above sea level. Virgin Galactic's space program has suffered years of delays and a 2014 accident in which a pilot died. Unlike other companies that use vertical launch rockets, Virgin Galactic uses a carrier aircraft with 2 pilots that takes off from a runway, gains high altitude, and drops a rocket-powered plane that soars into space at nearly Mach 3 before gliding back to Earth. The total journey time is 90 minutes, with passengers experiencing a few minutes of weightlessness in the space plane cabin. Its first fully crewed flight in 2021 included the company's flamboyant founder, British billionaire Richard Branson. But what had appeared to be a breakthrough moment for the company was marred by an official safety probe after the space plane was found to have dropped below its assigned airspace on its descent. The Federal Aviation Agency later cleared the company to resume activity after it promised corrective actions. Lee Chong Wei, Lin Dan, inducted into BWF Hall of Fame. Stay with us. Retired badminton world champions Datuk Lee Chong Wei as well as Lin Dan of China were both inducted into the Badminton World Federation or BWF 2023 Hall of Fame last night. Now, the two were widely known to be each other's biggest rival as they met in 15 Olympics and World Championships singles finals. Datuk Lee Chong Wei is one of Malaysia's most popular and successful sportsmen. In 2006, he reached the #1 ranking, a position he would go on to hold for a record 348 weeks in total. Datuk Lee Chong Wei, who was diagnosed with early-stage nose cancer in 2018, announced his retirement in 2019 after being told by doctors that his body could no longer take the intense training needed for high-level competition.
Always in my mind, I want to be the Malaysia first record for the world #1. Always in my mind. I think Malaysia has a lot of world #1, and I don't know how, maybe 1 month, few months, I don't know. I always in my mind, I want to be the Malaysia first in stay in the world #1 longer.
On the other hand, Lin Dan was the first shuttler to retain the Olympic title when he won the 2012 London Games after his triumph in the home event in Beijing in 2008. He went on to play in other major tournaments before retiring in 2020. National cycling champion Dato' Muhammad Azizul Hasni Awang performed a spectacular display to win the gold in the men's sprint event at the 2023 Hong Kong International Track Cup yesterday. The Pocket Rocket Man dominance during the race at the Hong Kong Velodrome was such that Chinese cyclist Kang Xingfeng could do nothing but be contented with the silver. Meanwhile, fellow Malaysian cyclist Muhammad Shafridawa Sahrum won the bronze after he beat South Korean cyclist Kang Seo-jun in a 3rd-4th place decider. In the women's event, national women's cyclist Nurul Izzah Izzati Muhammad Azri rose to the occasion to win the gold in the women's sprint category. The 20-year-old also dominated as she beat South Korean Park Ji-hye. Francisco Cerrodolo beat Lyon Open defending champion Cameron Norrie in their semi-final on Friday to reach his first tour-level final of the season. The Argentine controlled most of the match as he rolled over the number 2 seed 6-3, 6-love in an hour and 13 minutes. The number 4 seed will face Arthur Fields in the final after the local wildcard defeated Brandon Nakashima of the United States in a roller coaster of a match. After splitting the first 2 sets, Fields thought he had won the match at 5-4 in the third when a Nakashima backhand found the line, but Fields thought it had gone out. The Frenchman fell to the ground as the local crowd roared on their feet, thinking he had advanced to the final. But then the chair umpire came down saying the ball was called in and pointing out the ball mark to a stunned Fields who argued before finally relenting. Nakashima ended up winning the game to level at 5-all, and the match eventually went into a third set tiebreak. The Phils won the tiebreak 7-5 and was finally able to celebrate a 7-5, 4-6, 7-6 victory to the crowd's delight. Still on tennis, over in Switzerland, the second and third seeds were ousted at the Geneva Open, with Grigor Dimitrov beating Taylor Fritz and Nicolas Jarry beating Alexander Zverev to advance to Sunday's final. With Dimitrov's win, the Bulgarian snapped an 11-match losing streak in tour-level semi-finals as he hunts for his first title since 2017. After dropping the first set 3-6 to the second-seeded American, Dimitrov roared back to take the second and forced the decider, which came down to a third-set tiebreak. Dimitrov ultimately prevailed 3-6, 7-5, 7-6. The Jarry's opening set against Zverev came to a tiebreak, with the Chilean besting the German to take the set 7-6. He then ran away with the second set to win the match 7-6, 6-3 for the right to face Dimitrov in the final. The Jarry also reached the Geneva final in 2019 when he lost to Zverev.
Just a match, Jarry.
World number one, Carlos Alcaraz, believes he's developed the mental side of his game and the most as he steadies himself for a run at a maiden French Open title in Paris. Now, in the absence of 14 times winner and defending champion Rafael Nadal, all eyes are on the 20-year-old Spaniard to see if he can step out of Nadal's shadow and leave a mark on the clay courts of Roland Garros.
Well, talking about tennis, I would say I'm the same player than last year. Only change that I would say is I'm more mature. Mentally, I'm better, and I can read what happened on the court better than last year. That for me is really, really important, and I would say that's the most different than last year.
Alcaraz said he felt bad for fellow Spaniard Nadal, who will miss the Grand Slams he's played in every year since 2005 after failing to regain full fitness from a hip injury suffered at the Australian Open in January. Alcaraz was quizzed about the prospect of teaming up with Nadal in the doubles at the Paris Olympics next year and admitted it would be a dream to take the court with him. For now, though, Alcaraz opens his tournament against a qualifier in the first round before heading into some daunting matchups en route to a potential semi-final against world number 3 Novak Djokovic.
Sambutan Hari Belia 2023, martabat belia diangkat dengan ilmu dan keyakinan. Mari bersama-sama Perdana Menteri meraihkan sambutan Hari Belia Negara 2023 secara langsung dari Padang Pejabat Daerah dan Tanah Port Dickson Negeri Sembilan pada hari Ahad 28 Mei 2023, 12 tengah hari, hanya di TV1, saluran Berita RTM dan RTM Klik.
And that's it for Updates at Noon. Wrapping up with a recap of our top story today. Malaysia Madani logo unveiled as official emblem for National Day celebration. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight coming up at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM. You can stream the channel on YouTube or RTM Click's web portal and mobile app. Thank you for watching. I'm Jessica Lee. I'll see you later.